You talked about it in there. You hit the ground running, and then they threw the week 0 game. Just what's the last kind of 7 months been like for you, getting acclimated, and then still trying to put everything together for?
So it's been a whirlwind. It's first 6 months of my entire life that I've ever not had a home to live in. So, I've got a family of 6, and we've been all over with the help of all of our boosters and friends and whatnot. So that's off the field. Just personally, it's been challenging. Bringing in 22 in the wintertime, bringing in 33 in the spring, and trying to get 85 scholarship kids, 120 all focused in the right direction is a challenge. I think we've done it. I like what we got out of spring ball. I really like the work our guys have put in the summertime. So now we finally get to do it for real and put the pads on tomorrow morning and see where it takes us. So we've got however many days here between now and August 23rd to get ready for Western Kentucky, and I'm looking forward to that process.
Just a few names that you hope to see break out in a big way, and who will be big pieces for you this fall?
It used to be an easy answer there. We've got the battle at quarterback with Mabry Matoyer and Hunter Watson, but there's some depth in the secondary now. There's some interesting talent at the end. There's some new guys on the O-line. We have a talented RB room. So there's going to be a lot of iron sharpening iron here in camp. But for me to ID some guys right now would be hard, because I probably won't have a great feel for that until we get about halfway through camp.
Coach, people, your build is an air raid that speculates about how much run will be in, what kind of concepts. Can you just kind of give overview what this offense will look like?
That's a battle I've been fighting for a lot of years in my career, in terms of the air raid tag is definitely philosophically the approach we take with the offense. It doesn't mean we're going to throw the ball 90% of the time. Our GA did a study for us about a month ago, and over the last 12 years, we have run the ball 180 times, 181 times more than we've thrown the ball. Actually, my first 2 years here, 2014 to 15, I think we had over 3,700 yards rushing both of those first 2 seasons. So we are always going to let the talent base dictate what we do. The third year at Sam Houston, we threw it for 52 and ran it for 24. It just depends on what the strength of your team is, and that'll always dictate the direction we take the offense. I think it's going to dictate what we do on defense and special teams as well. And overall, we want to keep it simple for us. We want it to be multiple and difficult for the opponent, so that we can teach it and be instinctive at what we're doing. And that won't change here as long as I'm here.
We talked about it in there with the defense, but what's it been like for you being the overseer for a whole team rather than just half of the team?
Well, I was very aware of the perception that players can have when you have an offensive head coach or defensive head coach. The approach visually looking at the program is more from a team standpoint, and so I will have some input offensively, but I'm going to have all defensive input and special teams input, and I trust all 3 coordinators to handle their deal. And I think what we want to do from a priority standpoint is we are going to prioritize our big men first. So the O and the D line always eat first, regardless of what we do, right? They're always getting on the bus first. They get the biggest seats on the plane, all of that. Those are the guys that probably are not going to be in the limelight. Our skills have an opportunity to do that. So we're going to prioritize what really wins games, and that's the guys up front. And then from an offensive and a defensive standpoint, I think we put the same emphasis into recruiting both sides. I know I do. I think our team believes that now. I think the defense understands that I'm a head coach only, and it really has nothing to do with one side or the other. I also don't believe you win championships without being very good on both sides. And I believe strongly right now, because of the attitude of our team, that we will be very much improved in the special teams aspect of our program as well. So I'm excited about getting this going.
We're circling back to the offense. It seems like a very important part of it is the slot receivers. I remember seeing a quote saying that there's something like 3 things you love: your wife, kids, and slot receivers. Just how big are slot receivers going to be this year, especially inheriting a new team?
The receivers in general, but the slot position has been a very productive position in the offense. And it's a mismatched position, and so that job, that position in this offense has, typically been a guy that can make plays in open space. That's a mismatch-minded athlete, and so I don't know that will change this year. Our slots had tremendous success when we were here the first time. We're going to need the production out of that position to do what we want to do on offense, but like I said, it really just depends on where our strengths are. We've had years where the wideout was a premier guy, the running backs were premier. Sometimes it was really centered around your quarterback. It'll be fun to watch everything play out to see where the strengths are on both sides of the football this year.
Coach, you can talk about, obviously not having a home stadium this year, going to be playing down in Houston. Talk about kind of like that adjustment. In reality, every game's kind of being a away game, travel-wise.
Well, it will be, and we officially have 7 away, and they'll be well traveled. We're going to put a lot of miles on our team this year. And then you add the mileage playing the 5 away games that are considered home games. One thing it does for us, though, is the routine will be the same. And I think just because of the way our staff has approached it, I don't know if we're going to view it, our players are going to view it as an obstacle. It's just what we need to do to get the kickoff so we can go do what we want to do, and that's play ball.
How much of that travel aspect can you take from being at schools like Wisconsin, Ole Miss, and North Carolina?
In terms of?
Like just, the distances and the logistics.
So it's probably a very under talked about area. You can, just from a schedule standpoint, you can wear your team out on a travel. It is to get on a plane, load everything, to do all that stuff. Every team needs to do that. But there are strategic things you can do planning-wise to not stress the players, to not over-travel the players, to not get them in a position where they're bored. All of these things are not good, right? So I would say that having so many different experiences, traveling with so many different programs, you take the good and you drop the bad. And we had a really long, good, positive, productive conversation with the staff about how we want to address and approach how we travel. So everything we do on a trip has a purpose, but it's always with what's best for our players in mind, and that won't change moving forward.
Do you kind of fear kind of wearing out your players with that travel? Not that it's anyone's fault. It's just
I don't if we handle it the right way. I think if you just slap the schedule together because that's what you did last year, or you don't take into account the challenges of this season and with this team, then you can probably mismanage a trip. I don't think we're doing that. I like what the input has been from the staff. I like the plan we put together. And then we get a lot of input from our players. So I'll talk to the player committee every week about, here's our plan. What do you guys think? What do you want to get out of this? And how do you want to do it? And there's a lot of smart people, smarter than I am, in that building. And so we'll take all the good input, and I think we like our plan moving into how we're going to travel this season.
Through the time since you first got here, you've had over 3.5 decades of coaching experience. But like you said, you've been hitting the ground running and all that. Just kind of what have you learned over these past few months, ever since you got here?
I learned a long time ago, you're a better coach when you don't feel like you have all the answers. And you want to hire people that are better than you. You want to surround yourself with better people. You want to surround yourself with people that are experts in the area that they have to handle. And then you delegate those assignments out, but you've got to have some trust in your staff and in your leadership, in the locker room. You got to be able to trust those people. So we put a lot of time into trying to hire and recruit the right people. And I have full trust in these guys, staff and players, and we're going to let them go do their job.